In the heart of a sprawling American valley, where the old world whispered through ancient pines and the modern skyline shimmered in the distance, a secret legacy was stirring. Celine, a woman of quiet intensity and mysterious grace, wandered the urban edges of this divided land. Born to a family whose lineage was shrouded in whispered legends, she carried within her an inexplicable pull toward the wild. Every step she took resonated with the echoes of ancestral rituals and a destiny yet undefined. On a cool autumn evening, as twilight draped the city in a velvet haze, Celine found herself at the crossroads of tradition and change. The bustling metropolis, with its neon glow and relentless energy, clashed with the serene, untamed wilderness beyond its limits. It was here, amid the dynamic tension of urban life and the ancient wild, that fate had orchestrated an encounter with Draven, a man whose very presence defied the confines of mortal existence. Draven, the Alpha, was a study in paradoxes. Public, he was revered as a leader, a figure of unwavering honor and strength, whose decisions were steeped in the customs of his kind. Yet behind the steely eyes and the burdens of leadership lay a soul tormented by inner conflict. Draven's heart, a battlefield of conflicting desires, yearned for transformation, even as it was chained by duty. When he first glimpsed Celine, something deep within him stirred, a spark of hope that might finally reconcile his dual existence. Their meeting occurred on an overcast evening in the heart of an urban park, where shadows danced between stately oaks and modern sculptures. Draven had been overseeing a discreet gathering of his kin, a ritual meant to reaffirm their bond with the ancient ways, but his attention was diverted when he saw Celine, silhouetted against the glow of city lights, her eyes reflecting both vulnerability and quiet determination. In that moment, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. "Are you lost, or are you seeking something?" Draven asked, his voice low and resonant, laced with the weight of centuries of tradition. His question, seemingly casual, carried an undercurrent of something far more profound, a question about destiny, identity, and the very nature of the soul. Celine paused, taken aback by the intensity of his gaze. "Perhaps I'm both," she replied softly, her voice trembling with a mixture of uncertainty and defiance. "I feel as if I'm being called to something, but I cannot yet discern what." Their words mingled with the rustling of leaves, as if nature itself conspired to guide them on a path neither fully understood. That night marked the beginning of a clandestine relationship, a bond forged in secrecy and kindled under the shimmering canopy of starlight. In whispered conversations and furtive glances, the two souls discovered an inexplicable connection. Draven, ever torn between the duty to his pack and the yearning for liberation, found in Celine both a sanctuary and a mirror to his innermost fears. For Celine, the allure of the forbidden was intertwined with the hope of uncovering the secrets of her own enigmatic past. As days turned into weeks, the valley itself became a silent witness to their unfolding saga. Amid the urban chaos, the ancient woods beckoned with tales of old, promising revelations and dangers alike. Celine's late-night wanderings led her to hidden enclaves where ancestral murals depicted the storied past of her family. In a derelict mansion on the outskirts of town, she discovered a trove of faded letters and cryptic journals, a labyrinth of secrets that hinted at a destiny entwined with supernatural forces. Each revelation deepened the mystery, pulling her further into a web of betrayal and redemption that had been spun long before her birth. One rainy afternoon, while the city trembled under the weight of a relentless storm, Celine sought solace in an abandoned chapel. There, amidst the interplay of light and shadow, she uncovered a fragile diary belonging to her great-grandmother, a woman whose life had been as tumultuous as the era she lived in. The entries spoke of forbidden love, shattered alliances, and a prophecy that foretold the rise of a savior destined to mend the fractured hearts of their kind. The words ignited in Celine a fierce determination to confront her own destiny, even if it meant unraveling painful truths about her family's past. Meanwhile, Draven's internal struggle reached a fevered pitch. As the leader of his pack, he was expected to adhere to time-honored customs that had safeguarded their existence through countless trials. Yet his heart rebelled against the constraints of tradition. In hushed gatherings of his inner circle, He voiced doubts and spoke of reform, ideas that threatened to tear the very fabric of their society apart. "We cannot forever cling to the old ways if we are to survive in this changing world," he confessed during one secret council meeting, his eyes burning with a mix of desperation and hope. His words, radical yet sincere, sparked both admiration and dissent among his kin, deepening the fissures within the pack. The tension between duty and desire became an ever-present undercurrent in Draven's life. Each decision he made was laden with the fear of failure, not only his own, but that of a legacy built on honor and sacrifice. Yet with every stolen moment with Celine, he felt the stirrings of redemption. Their clandestine rendezvous were charged with both passion and pain, a delicate dance between the world of the supernatural and the harsh realities of mortal life. Under the guise of night, in secluded clearings lit by the silver glow of a full moon, they shared fragments of their souls. "I fear that loving you is both my salvation and my undoing," Draven admitted one such night, his voice raw with vulnerability. Their romance, however, was not without peril. Whispers of their forbidden union began to spread like wildfire through the ranks of the pack. The elders, guardians of tradition, viewed their connection as a harbinger of upheaval, threat to the established order. In the secretive corridors of their ancient meeting hall, dissent grew. Some argued that Draven's growing infatuation with a human was a betrayal of everything their kind held sacred. Others, though few, saw in this union the possibility of bridging the gap between old and new, a synthesis that could lead to a more enlightened future. Back in the modern world, the city bustled unaware of the supernatural tempest brewing at its fringes. Celine continued to lead a dual existence, by day, a diligent researcher delving into the mysteries of her heritage, by night, a seeker of forbidden truths. Her inner turmoil was palpable, a constant battle between the rational and the mystical. "Every secret I uncover only deepens the mystery," she confided to her closest friend over a quiet dinner in a dimly lit bistro. "I fear that understanding the past might shatter everything I believe in." Her words, though filled with trepidation, carried the unmistakable tone of a woman on the cusp of a great revelation. As autumn yielded to the icy grip of winter, the valley seemed to mirror the growing chill in the hearts of its inhabitants. A clandestine meeting of influential elders was called in a remote mountain lodge, a decision that set in motion a series of events that would forever alter the course of destiny. In that secluded retreat, amidst flickering candlelight and murmurs of foreboding, Draven found himself at the center of an ideological maelstrom. The discussion, heated and impassioned, revolved around the ancient prophecy and the potential for renewal that Celine's presence represented. "We stand at a crossroads," declared the eldest among them, his voice echoing off stone walls. "To deny the call of change is to condemn us all to stagnation and decay." Draven's internal battle raged as the elder's words bore down on him. Torn between the expectations of his lineage and the seductive call of change, he struggled to hold on to the flickering hope that Celine had awakened within him. His mind replayed their whispered promises, the secret glances exchanged in hidden alcoves, and the unspoken understanding that their union was both a blessing and a curse. The weight of duty pressed upon him, and yet he could not ignore the fervent desire for redemption, a chance to redefine what it meant to be an alpha in a world teetering on the brink of transformation. In the quiet moments of reflection, as the winter winds howled against ancient stone and modern glass alike, Draven found himself grappling with the enormity of his choices. Each heartbeat was a reminder of the stakes involved, the delicate balance between legacy and the possibility of a future unbound by the rigid dictates of the past. "Can I truly break free from the chains of destiny?" he pondered aloud during a solitary walk along a snow-dusted path. The question echoed in the silence, a solitary cry for liberation from the predestined roles that had defined his existence for generations. As the first hints of dawn began to break over the horizon, illuminating the valley with a fragile promise of renewal, the threads of fate tightened around both Celine and Draven. The mysteries of their past, the burden of ancient prophecies, and the simmering tensions within the pack all converged in a moment that was as inevitable as it was unexpected. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge the very foundations of their world. A moment when the true nature of love, sacrifice, and redemption would be laid bare for all to see. In the gathering gloom of the pre-dawn hours, as the city slowly awakened and the wilderness prepared to reclaim its quiet dominion, Selene and Draven braced themselves for the trials ahead. The secrets buried for generations were on the verge of surfacing, and the choices they made in the coming hours would not only decide their own fates, but also the destiny of their entire world. With hearts heavy yet determined, both knew that the coming confrontation would mark a turning point, a collision between past and future, between duty and desire, that could no longer be ignored. The valley trembled with a renewed sense of urgency as the first light of day broke over the horizon. In the aftermath of that fateful pre-dawn meeting, tensions escalated within both the urban sprawl and the clandestine realms of the supernatural. As winter's chill receded into a hesitant spring, Draven and Selene were drawn deeper into a labyrinth of secrets, betrayals, and mystical prophecies that promised to redefine the destiny of their intertwined worlds. Draven awoke in his secluded quarters, a rustic cabin hidden away in the woods that bordered the modern city, with his thoughts consumed by the heated debates of the night before. The echo of the elders' impassioned voices still reverberated in his mind. Their stark words about tradition, duty, and the ominous prophecy weighed heavily upon him. The internal conflict that had long haunted him now manifested as a tangible ache. He paced near the window, watching as the sunlight stretched its gentle fingers across the frost-kissed landscape, the serenity of the morning a sharp contrast to the storm raging within. In a dimly lit chamber lined with relics of past glories, Draven addressed a small, trusted circle of his pack. "We stand at a precipice," he intoned, his deep, resonant voice melding authority with vulnerability. "If we do not confront these shifting tides, our future will be consumed by the very shadows we fear." His eyes, usually so steady and commanding, betrayed a flicker of uncertainty as he glanced toward a weathered family crest pinned to the wall, a symbol of legacy and loss. The murmurs of agreement were interspersed with skeptical glances from those who had long adhered to tradition. Among them was Kaelin, a fiercely loyal yet questioning member of the pack, who had often challenged the old ways. "Draven," Kaelin interjected, his tone a mixture of respect and apprehension. "Do you truly believe that this Selene, this outsider, can be the catalyst for change? Our ancestors warned against the chaos of forbidden unions." His words struck a chord among the assembled, igniting a fierce debate that blurred the lines between reverence and rebellion. Meanwhile, in the heart of the city, Selene navigated her own maelstrom of emotions. In her modest apartment, lined with relics of her family's past and photographs of forgotten smiles, she pored over the diary and letters she had discovered in the abandoned mansion. The cryptic passages, filled with poetic despair and hopeful defiance, hinted at an ancient secret that could either liberate or devastate her world. Each faded ink stroke seemed to pulse with life, as if the past itself was reaching out to her, pleading for recognition. During a particularly restless night, Selene sat by the rain-streaked window of her apartment. The rhythmic patter of raindrops provided a somber backdrop as she carefully reread a passage that chilled her to the bone. "When the dual heart of the Alpha beats in discord, a shadow shall rise to claim the legacy of our blood. Only through sacrifice can redemption be wrought and the sins of our forefathers absolved." Her mind raced with questions. Who was this shadow? What sacrifice had been prophesied? And most importantly, how was she, a mortal with seemingly no connection to the supernatural, so inexplicably entwined with these ancient words? The diary had opened a door to a past riddled with mystery and pain, a past that demanded to be understood if she were ever to secure a future with Draven. Compelled by a mix of dread and determination, Selene resolved to seek out the elusive historian Marcus, a recluse known for his extensive research into supernatural lore. Marcus had once been a trusted confidant to the elders, but had retreated into isolation after a scandal that marred his reputation. Rumor had it that his collection of rare manuscripts and relics held the keys to unlocking the prophecy. Clad in a worn leather jacket and clutching her diary close to her chest, Selene embarked on a journey that took her deep into the city's forgotten quarters, a maze of derelict warehouses and abandoned train stations that whispered tales of bygone eras. At a clandestine meeting arranged in a crumbling library, Celine finally encountered Marcus. His appearance was as unkempt as his reputation. Graying hair, a face etched with sorrow and wisdom, and eyes that burned with an intensity that belied his frail frame. "You're not like the others who come seeking answers," he murmured, as Selena unfolded the pages of the diary before him. "You have the fire of conviction, tempered by the chill of uncertainty." His voice, though soft, resonated with a depth of experience that made her heart flutter with both hope and apprehension. "Please," Celine implored, "tell me what this prophecy means. How am I connected to Draven? And what does it portend for us all?" Marcus leaned back, his eyes drifting to the dusty shelves crammed with secrets of the past. "The prophecy speaks of a duality, a conflict between legacy and liberation," he began slowly. "Draven, as the Alpha, carries not only the weight of his kind, but also the remnants of a past marred by betrayal. Your presence, Celine, appears to be the catalyst for breaking that cycle, a chance for him to reconcile the darkness within and embrace a future unshackled by the sins of history." As Marcus's words sank in, Celine felt a mingling of fear and determination. She now understood that her fate was irrevocably linked with Draven's, a truth that both terrified and exhilarated her. The historian's cryptic explanations only deepened the mystery, leaving her with more questions than answers. With a heavy heart, she departed from the library, the prophecy's burden weighing on her every step. Back in the wilderness, Draven wrestled with his inner demons. His nightly walks, once a solace from the demands of leadership, had become a pilgrimage into the depths of his soul. One such night, under a tapestry of stars, he found himself alone, at the edge of a cliff overlooking a turbulent river. Roaring water below mirrored the chaos within him, and as he stared into the abyss, memories of his childhood, a time when the pack was whole and unburdened by the tragedies of betrayal, flooded his mind. In a sudden moment of raw introspection, Draven whispered to the wind, "Must I always be torn between who I am and who I should be? Is there a redemption that lies beyond this endless conflict?" The silence that followed was almost deafening, punctuated only by the distant howls of his kin and the steady, relentless flow of the river. It was in that solitude that a hidden truth began to unfurl, a revelation that would alter everything he believed about himself and the legacy he was sworn to protect. Unbeknownst to both Celine and Draven, dark forces were stirring behind the scenes. The Council of Elders, alarmed by the unraveling threads of tradition and the emergence of a prophesied change, had secretly convened an assembly in the shadowed halls of an ancient fortress. Here, among cold stone and flickering torchlight, they debated not only the fate of Draven but also the future of their entire kind. Their whispered conspiracies and veiled threats hinted at a more sinister agenda, one that aimed to manipulate the prophecy for their own ends. At the heart of this gathering was a figure cloaked in mystery, known only as the Custodian. With eyes that seemed to pierce through the very soul, the Custodian had long been an arbiter of secrets, tasked with safeguarding the ancient lore from falling into the wrong hands. "Draven's internal strife is but the beginning," the Custodian intoned, his voice a chilling blend of prophecy and command. "If we fail to act, the delicate balance between duty and desire will shatter, and our world will be plunged into chaos." His words resonated through the cavernous room, igniting a fervor among those who had long harbored ambitions of reshaping the pack's destiny. As the elders deliberated, dissent simmered beneath the surface. Some, like Kalen, sensed that the path the elders were about to tread was fraught with peril, a treacherous deviation from the principles that had sustained them for centuries. "We must not sacrifice our honor at the altar of expedience," Kalen argued, his voice rising in a passionate crescendo that silenced the room for a moment. "There is a price to be paid for tampering with fate." Yet even as his words fell on receptive ears, the seeds of division were sown, threatening to fracture the pack from within. The duality of fate and free will loomed large over the valley. Draven, torn between the echoes of his ancestral duty and the liberating allure of change, began to suspect that the prophecy was not merely a warning, but a roadmap, a guide to a future where redemption might be attained at a cost. In a series of clandestine encounters with trusted advisors, he started piecing together fragments of ancient lore that suggested his struggle was intricately woven into the fabric of their kind's history. "Every choice I make reverberates through the ages," he confided to his most loyal friend during one secret midnight meeting in a hidden grove. "It is as though I am destined to be both the harbinger of our downfall and the architect of our salvation." Simultaneously, Celine's pursuit of the truth led her into a labyrinth of personal revelations. The diary's cryptic hints uncovered layers of familial secrets, tales of forbidden liaisons, hidden alliances, and bitter betrayals that had shaped her lineage for generations. One stormy evening, as thunder rumbled in the distance, she found herself in the attic of her childhood home, sifting through dusty memorabilia. There, tucked behind a faded portrait of a woman with striking resemblance to herself, was a sealed envelope bearing the emblem of the very family crest that Draven's pack revered. With trembling fingers, she opened it to reveal a letter that spoke of a love that defied boundaries, a love that had once threatened to tear apart the delicate balance between the mortal and the supernatural realms. "Celine," the letter read in a flowing script, "know that your destiny has been written in the stars long before you took your first breath. Embrace the truth, for only then will you understand the sacrifices required to mend a broken legacy." The words struck her with the force of a revelation, filling her with both hope and dread. They hinted at a past that was as dark as it was illuminating, a past that had set in motion the chain of events now spiraling toward an uncertain future. As spring matured into a season of restless change, the lives of Draven and Celine became a tapestry of converging destinies. Their paths, though divergent in many ways, were inexorably drawn together by the weight of prophecy and the promise of redemption. The hidden alliances among the supernatural, the whispers of conspiracies within the pack, and the unyielding pull of forbidden love set the stage for a confrontation that would test the very limits of their resolve. In a fateful encounter, orchestrated by destiny itself, Draven and Celine met once again in a moonlit clearing deep within the forest. The air was thick with anticipation, every rustle of the leaves echoing the unspoken tension between them. "I have learned things, horrible truths, about our past," Draven confessed, his voice laden with remorse and determination. "But I also see a path forward, one that may yet redeem us all." Celine's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she reached out, her hand trembling against his calloused skin. "Then we must choose," she whispered, "whether to let our pain define us or to rise above it, together." Their shared gaze held promises of a future fraught with peril, yet illuminated by the possibility of reconciliation. Yet, as the forest bore silent witness to their vows of unity, a sudden disturbance shattered the fragile calm. In the distance, muffled footsteps and hushed voices betrayed the approach of unseen figures, intruders whose intentions were as dark and enigmatic as the prophecy itself. Shadows coalesced at the edge of the clearing, and in that charged moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. The eyes of the night turned toward Draven and Celine, as if the very forces of fate had aligned to deliver a message that could no longer be ignored. In that instant of suspended time, where every heartbeat was a defiant drum against the encroaching darkness, the couple braced themselves for the unknown. The whispered promise of redemption, the murmur of ancient secrets, and the inevitability of betrayal converged into a singular moment of fate. As the approaching figures stepped into the moonlight, their intentions masked by the veils of uncertainty, the future of both the supernatural and the mortal realms teetered on the edge of irrevocable change. In the days that followed the ambush in the moonlit clearing, a palpable shift settled over the valley, a transformation marked by both palpable tension and an undercurrent of hope. The violent intrusion had left its mark on Draven and Celine, deepening the chasm between their inner turmoil and the dangerous realities of their intertwined worlds. Every whispered secret, every stolen moment of tenderness, now carried the weight of potential catastrophe. As the valley's inhabitants wrestled with the consequences of these new events, the supernatural and the mortal realms prepared to collide, in ways none could foresee. Draven, reeling from the shock of the ambush, isolated himself in a hidden sanctuary nestled within the dense forest. The sanctum was a relic from an era when the pack revered the balance between nature and the divine. A secluded retreat where the whispers of ancestors mingled with the rustling of ancient leaves. There, amidst the solitude of towering pines and the soft glow of bioluminescent fungi, he sought refuge to heal his battered spirit and to contemplate the enormity of the threat that now loomed over them. Sitting on a moss-covered stone, Draven allowed his mind to wander back to the countless battles he had fought, both external and internal. His reflection was interrupted by the sudden arrival of Kaelin, the pack member whose earlier descent had hinted at deeper loyalties and fears. Draven, Kaelin began cautiously, his voice echoing softly against the natural acoustics of the forest. We cannot ignore the significance of what transpired. The ambush was not a mere coincidence. It was orchestrated by those who wished to upend our way of life. His eyes, filled with both concern and determination, met Draven's conflicted gaze. You must act or risk losing everything we've built. Draven's reply was heavy with the burden of leadership and regret. Every step I take is shadowed by doubt, Kaelin. I see now that my internal struggle, my reluctance to fully embrace change, has left vulnerabilities that our adversaries can exploit. But I fear that every choice, every decision, may bring me closer to my own downfall. The quiet desperation in his voice resonated with the ancient echoes of destiny, a reminder that sometimes the path to redemption is paved with sacrifice. Back in the modern heart of the city, Selene found herself increasingly haunted by the visions and revelations unearthed in her family's diary. The hidden corridors of her mind were now alive with the turbulent interplay of memories and premonitions. Every step she took down the rain-soaked streets was a journey into the labyrinth of her lineage, a journey that threatened to unravel the delicate threads of her identity. In her cramped apartment, the scattered pages of the diary formed a mosaic of forgotten truths, their cryptic verses weaving a tapestry of passion, betrayal, and unfulfilled promises. Determined to uncover the full extent of the prophecy and its implications for her future with Draven, Selene arranged another clandestine meeting with Marcus, the enigmatic historian, who had become her reluctant guide into the supernatural realm. They convened in an abandoned industrial loft, its raw, unfinished walls bearing the scars of time, a stark contrast to the meticulously preserved relics housed in Marcus's private collection. As rain pelted the broken windows, the two sat, across from one another at a rickety wooden table, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken questions. "Marcus," Selene urged, her voice trembling with both resolve and fear. "I need to know everything. How deep does this prophecy run? Why was I chosen to be part of this destiny? And is there a way to avert the looming disaster?" Marcus leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a mix of sorrow and determination. The prophecy is an intricate weave of fate and free will. It binds the Alpha and the mortal in a shared destiny that transcends generations. Your involvement is not a mere accident. It is the culmination of choices made long before you were born. His words, both cryptic and insightful, left Selene with more questions than answers. In the ensuing hours, as storm clouds raged outside and the distant hum of the modern world faded into insignificance, Marcus revealed a trove of hidden manuscripts and ancient texts. Each document was a piece of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that chronicled the rise and fall of empires, the battles fought by supernatural beings, and the enduring struggle between light and darkness. Your family's legacy, Marcus explained, is interwoven with the fate of Draven's kind. There were moments in history when love and sacrifice reshaped the world. Perhaps in your union lies the power to heal old wounds and to forge a new path. Selene's mind raced as she absorbed the weight of these revelations. The more she learned, the clearer it became that the prophecy was not merely a harbinger of doom, but also a beacon of hope, a hope that could mend the fractured ties between two worlds. Yet, with every revelation came a price. Shadows from the past began to surface, threatening to engulf her in a maelstrom of doubt and fear. The revelation of a dark secret, a long-hidden betrayal within her own family, challenged her faith in everything she had ever believed. In a moment of anguished clarity, she realized that her journey was not solely about uncovering truth, but also about reconciling with the parts of herself she had long denied. As the storm outside subsided into an eerie calm, Celine made a silent vow. She would confront the ghosts of her past and face the hidden truths, no matter how painful they might be. Determined to protect her love for Draven and to honor the legacy that had shaped her existence, she embraced the idea that redemption often comes through the hardest trials. Her resolve was a silent promise to herself, to seek forgiveness for past transgressions, and to find a way to mend the fissures between her two worlds. Meanwhile, the conspiracies within Draven's pack escalated. The assembly led by the custodian had splintered into factions, each with its own vision of the future. In the cold, torchlit corridors of the ancient fortress, fervent debates turned into heated arguments. "We must purge the impurities of our lineage," declared one vocal faction, their voices rising in a frenzied chorus. "Draven's weakness has endangered us all." Others, however, argued for a more measured approach, insisting that the transformation needed to be embraced rather than destroyed. "Change is inevitable," countered a softer voice from the shadows, "and only through unity can we overcome the sins of our past." Caught in the midst of these ideological battles, Draven felt increasingly isolated. His inner circle, once a source of steadfast loyalty, now teetered on the brink of rebellion. The weight of expectation pressed down on him, as every decision, every concession, was scrutinized by those who once believed in his vision. Late one night, as he walked the deserted corridors of the fortress, Draven's footsteps echoed in the cold stone, a rhythmic reminder of the relentless march of time and the inevitability of change. "I must find a way to unite these divided hearts," he murmured to the empty hallways, "or risk losing everything that defines who we are." The internal dialogue was a mix of resolute determination and vulnerable confession, a rare glimpse into the depths of a leader torn between tradition and evolution. In a daring bid to reclaim control and restore balance, Draven arranged a secret meeting with a group of like-minded rebels within the pack. In a secluded grove, far from the prying eyes of the conservative elders, he unveiled his plan to redefine their ancient customs. "We stand at the threshold of a new era," he declared, his voice echoing with both authority and hope. "Our strength lies not in blind adherence to the past, but in our ability to adapt and embrace a future where love, sacrifice, and redemption are not mutually exclusive." His words resonated with those who had long harbored doubts, igniting a spark of optimism amid the prevailing darkness. As the seeds of revolution took root within the pack, whispers of dissent began to ripple through the supernatural community. Some factions saw Draven's vision as a betrayal of their ancestral heritage, while others recognized the urgent need for change in an increasingly complex world. This internal strife only compounded the external threats, forces lurking in the shadows who had long coveted the power held by the pack. These enemies, driven by envy and malice, had orchestrated the ambush in the forest with a singular purpose: to destabilize the delicate balance that Draven and his allies were striving to achieve. The duality of Draven's struggle was mirrored in Celine's own personal journey. As she delved deeper into the manuscripts and ancient texts with Marcus, fragments of a forgotten ritual began to emerge. A ritual that, if performed correctly, might bridge the chasm between mortal and supernatural realms. The texts spoke of a rare celestial alignment, a moment when the energies of both worlds would converge in a surge of transformative power. This ritual, Marcus explained with cautious reverence, could be the key to dispelling the shadows of betrayal and igniting a path toward redemption. Yet as with all things touched by destiny, the ritual came with a formidable cost, a sacrifice that would test the limits of both love and loyalty. Late one evening, under a sky painted with the vibrant hues of twilight, Celine and Marcus met at an ancient stone circle hidden deep within the city's abandoned park. The stones, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain, formed a perfect ring, a sanctified space where the veil between worlds was thin. "The ritual must be undertaken before the celestial alignment reaches its peak," Marcus warned, his tone solemn and urgent. "Time is of the essence, and the forces that oppose us will not wait." Celine's eyes, wide with determination, flickered with both hope and trepidation. I understand, she replied softly. But what must I give up to secure our future? What sacrifice will bind our fates for good? The question hung in the air like a fragile promise of hope and despair. In that charged moment, as the first star emerged to punctuate the twilight sky, Celine felt the weight of destiny upon her shoulders. The ritual was not merely a pathway to bridge two worlds. It was a test of her innermost resolve, a call to confront the hidden scars of her past and to embrace a future defined by courage and unity. As she gazed up at the heavens, a silent vow passed her lips: to fight for a redemption that transcended the boundaries of blood and myth. Back in the forest sanctuary, Draven prepared to confront the imminent threat posed by both internal conspiracies and external adversaries. The ambush had stirred a dormant fury within him, a determination to protect not only his kin, but also the fragile hope represented by his forbidden love. In a solitary moment of meditation by a tranquil forest pond, he allowed himself a rare display of vulnerability. "Every choice has a price," he whispered to the rippling water, "and I must be willing to pay it, no matter the cost." The reflection in the pond, distorted by the gentle current, seemed to echo his internal battle, a visage caught between the visage of a leader and that of a man yearning for liberation. The convergence of these dual struggles, Draven's quest for unity within a fractured pack and Celine's pursuit of ancestral truth, set the stage for an epic confrontation. The valley, with its vibrant urban landscapes and haunting wilderness, now served as the crucible for destiny's final trial. Unseen by the protagonists, shadowy figures plotted in hidden corners of both realms, determined to exploit the chaos for their own gain. As whispers of betrayal, sacrifice, and love intensified, the supernatural world braced for the storm that would either shatter its foundations or forge a new era of understanding. In the quiet moments before the celestial alignment, as the forces of destiny gathered like storm clouds on the horizon, both Draven and Celine steeled themselves for what lay ahead. Their hearts, scarred by past betrayals and tempered by the fire of unyielding resolve, beat as one in defiance of the darkness. With every step forward, every whisper shared in the secrecy of the night, they edged closer to a future where the sins of the past might be absolved and a new legacy could be written, a legacy defined not by the constraints of tradition, but by the limitless potential of love and redemption. In the aftermath of mounting conspiracies and the relentless pull of destiny, the valley stood on the precipice of an ultimate confrontation, a moment when every secret, every whispered betrayal, would come crashing down. As the celestial alignment neared its zenith, the supernatural and mortal realms braced themselves for a final reckoning that promised to reshape their intertwined destinies forever. Draven, having rallied a coalition of rebels within his pack, prepared for a confrontation not just with external adversaries, but with the very forces of his past. Under a sky streaked with the incandescent hues of the impending alignment, he stood at the edge of a vast clearing deep within the wilderness. Here, the boundary between myth and reality thinned to a mere veil, and every rustle of the wind carried echoes of bygone eras. His heart pounded with equal parts determination and trepidation as he clutched a weathered medallion, a relic passed down through generations of his lineage, rumored to hold the key to unlocking the true nature of the prophecy. Meanwhile, Celine, whose journey of discovery had led her to confront not only hidden manuscripts but also the buried truths of her family's lineage, hurried through the rain-washed streets of the modern city. The revelations uncovered in her ancestral diary had taken an unforeseen turn. She was not merely an unwitting mortal, drawn into the supernatural vortex, but a scion of a secret bloodline destined to bridge the divide between worlds. In a shocking twist that defied everything she had ever known, her lineage was revealed to be intertwined with the very origin of the pack, a lineage that predated the current order and harbored the potential to redefine the ancient prophecy. At a hastily arranged rendezvous in a long-forgotten underground transit station, Selena met with Marcus once more. The dim glow of emergency lights flickered against graffiti-scarred walls as she unrolled the fragile pages of a newly discovered document. "Marcus, these texts, there's more here than we ever suspected," she whispered, her voice trembling with urgency and wonder. "It speaks of a convergence, not only of celestial forces but of bloodlines." My ancestors were guardians of an ancient pact, a covenant that ensured peace between the supernatural and the human realms. Marcus's eyes widened as he scanned the cryptic passages, his fingers tracing the elegant archaic script. "This is unprecedented," he murmured, almost to himself. The prophecy was never just about the duality of the Alpha's soul. It was designed to reunite a fractured legacy. You, Selene, are the living embodiment of that lost covenant. Back in the forest clearing, as Draven gathered his closest allies, the tension in the air was nearly palpable. The rebel faction, emboldened by his newfound vision of change, stood shoulder to shoulder with him. Kaelin, whose earlier doubts had given way to a resolute belief in the possibility of transformation, stepped forward. "Draven, if we are to challenge the ancient order and the hidden cabal that has manipulated our fate, we must embrace the truth of who we are," he declared, his voice echoing off the ancient trees. "Tonight, we cast aside the shackles of old allegiances and forge a path that honors both our past and our future." The rebel group, their eyes reflecting the steely glint of resolve, began their silent march toward the ancient fortress where the custodian and his loyalists had long plotted to steer the course of destiny for their own ends. Draven's mind raced with memories of every sacrifice, every moment when the weight of leadership had nearly crushed his spirit. Now, in this defining moment, those burdens seemed both heavier and yet somehow more liberating. The medallion around his neck vibrated with a mysterious warmth, as if affirming his belief that destiny was finally aligning in his favor. At the fortress, cloaked figures moved like shadows in the torchlit corridors. The custodian, a figure whose inscrutable motives had haunted Draven's dreams, now emerged from the darkness to confront the rebel incursion. His voice, calm and chilling, reverberated through the cold stone halls. "Draven, you have defied the ancient decree. Do you truly believe that love and rebellion can overturn centuries of order?" he intoned, his eyes glinting with an unsettling mix of pity and resolve. Draven stepped forward, his voice steady despite the internal storm. "I believe that our past has been marred by secrets and betrayal, and that only by embracing truth can we reclaim our future. You have manipulated our heritage for too long, stifling the evolution that our kind so desperately needs." The ensuing confrontation was a cacophony of clashing ideologies, a battle not solely fought with physical force, but with the weight of history, destiny, and raw emotion. As tensions escalated in the fortress's grand hall, an unexpected figure appeared, one that no one had anticipated. Selene, guided by the revelations of her bloodline, had found her way to the stronghold. Dressed in attire that merged the modern with the ancient, a blend of contemporary grace and ancestral regalia, she radiated a presence that both commanded respect and dispelled fear. Her eyes, burning with the knowledge of her true heritage, locked onto the custodian. "I know who you are," she declared, her voice echoing across the marble floor. "You are not the guardian of our legacy, but a usurper who has stolen our birthright. The pact of old was meant to unite, not divide. And tonight that pact is restored." The revelation struck the room like a bolt of lightning. Murmurs rippled through the assembled elders and rebels alike. The custodian's expression hardened, his carefully constructed facade beginning to crumble under the weight of truth. "You dare question the traditions that have governed us for generations?" he sneered, but his voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. Selene advanced, her gaze unwavering. "Tradition should serve as a bridge, not a prison. You have turned it into a weapon of control, but now with the truth revealed, we have the power to reshape our destiny." In that charged moment, as the fortress trembled with the weight of destiny's revelations, the ancient medallion around Draven's neck began to emit a brilliant, unearthly light. The illumination bathed the hall in a glow that seemed to erase the lines between mortal and supernatural, past and future. Draven, feeling the surge of ancient power, stepped toward Selene. "Together," he declared, "we can mend the fractures of our history and bring forth a new era, a future defined by unity, forgiveness, and love." The custodian, now exposed as a manipulator whose ambition had twisted the sacred covenant, attempted one final plea. You cannot undo what has been written. The old ways are immutable. But his words fell flat in the wake of the newfound resolve that filled the hall. In an instant that felt suspended in time, the medallion's light enveloped both Draven and Selene, drawing forth visions of the past, of joyous unions and bitter betrayals, of sacrifices made in the name of survival, and of moments when love had triumphed over darkness. A tumult of emotions surged as the light revealed a secret long buried. The prophecy had been rewritten by those who truly understood its essence. The ancient texts, now illuminated by the medallion's radiance, confirmed that the true legacy was one of reconciliation rather than perpetual strife. Selene's bloodline, once thought to be a mere footnote in history, was revealed to be the linchpin that could restore balance between the supernatural and mortal realms. The vision was overwhelming, a tapestry of interconnected fates where every sacrifice had a purpose, and every betrayal had sown the seeds of eventual forgiveness. Amid the revelations, Kalen stepped forward, his voice trembling with awe. We have been deceived by those who claim to honor our heritage. But now, we see that our true strength lies in our ability to embrace change and heal old wounds. The gathered rebels and elders exchanged glances of dawning understanding as the medallion's glow spread through the hall, its light unifying those who had long been divided by fear and ambition. With the ancient texts as their guide, Selene and Draven initiated the long-forgotten ritual, a ceremony designed not to summon destruction, but to restore equilibrium between opposing forces. As the ritual unfolded, every participant, from hardened warriors to wary elders, felt the transformation taking hold. The symbols etched into the fortress walls began to shimmer, and the once cold stone pulsed with a gentle warmth, as if the building itself was awakening to a renewed purpose. In a final, heart-stopping climax, as the celestial alignment reached its peak, the boundaries that had separated the supernatural from the mortal began to dissolve. The voices of the past, once silenced by fear and oppression, rose in a harmonious chorus of hope. Draven's impassioned declaration and Selene's courageous revelation had sparked a metamorphosis that transcended time. The legacy of betrayal was purged from their collective memory, replaced by a promise of unity and transformation. In that transcendent moment, as the forces of destiny converged and the medallion's light fused with the celestial glow overhead, the custodian's power crumbled into dust. The man who had long manipulated the sacred covenant was unmasked as a relic of a darker era, one that no longer held sway over the future. The gathered assembly, now united in purpose, embraced the new dawn with tears of relief and hearts unburdened by the chains of old enmities. As the echoes of the ritual faded into a profound silence, Draven and Selene stood together at the heart of the ancient hall, their hands intertwined in a gesture that transcended the boundaries of legacy and time. In that embrace lay the promise of a future built on the foundations of truth, forgiveness, and the shared strength of two worlds merged as one. The celestial alignment had not only restored balance, but had also ignited a spark that would guide their people toward a destiny where every wound could be healed and every betrayal forgiven. In the quiet aftermath of the tumultuous events, the valley itself seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its landscapes, both urban and wild, bathed in a light that spoke of new beginnings. The age-old prophecies, once shrouded in mystery and sorrow, had given way to an era defined by hope and transformation. And as the assembled souls departed the fortress, each carried with them the undeniable truth that the legacy of the past, no matter how marred by betrayal, could always be redeemed through love and unity. In the final moments before the first rays of a brand new day illuminated the horizon, Selena whispered to Draven, "This is not the end, but the beginning of everything we have fought for, a chance to write our own destiny." His eyes, alight with the fires of both victory and humility, met hers in a silent vow. Our story will be remembered not for the pain we endured, but for the strength we found to rise above it all. Their voices, soft yet resolute, merged with the dawn chorus of nature and the distant hum of a modern city awakening to a promise fulfilled. As they stepped forward together into that luminous future, a future unburdened by the shadows of deceit and regret, they carried within them the unyielding hope of a world reborn, a world where every heart, once fractured by betrayal, could find its way back to pure, unblemished redemption. Redemption surged through the valley as the final hours of destiny unfurled beneath a sky ablaze with the last vestiges of twilight. In the wake of the cataclysmic confrontation at the ancient fortress, a new order was poised to emerge. One that would reconcile the long-sundered worlds of mortal and supernatural, and heal the deep wounds inflicted by centuries of secrecy and betrayal. In the sprawling courtyard of the once oppressive stronghold, now bathed in the soft luminescence of a reformed dawn, Draven and Selene stood together. The air trembled with the remnants of lingering energies from the celestial alignment. A convergence that had not only shattered the shackles of old dogmas, but also revealed startling truths. The rebel faction and erstwhile adversaries, once divided by a rigid adherence to ancestral decrees, now looked upon the pair with a mixture of wonder and hesitant hope. The fortress walls, scarred by the tumult of conflict, bore silent witness to the transformative events that had taken place. Draven's medallion, which had pulsed with a mysterious ancient power throughout the night, now rested against his chest, its warm glow signifying a newfound unity. Its radiance had not only dispelled the darkness of manipulation wrought by the custodian, but also exposed the true tapestry of their shared destiny. For within the intricate carvings on its surface lay the story of a pact, a covenant forged in the crucible of past sacrifices and sealed by the love of those who dared to defy fate. The medallion's light, steady and resolute, now symbolized the promise of renewal, that even the deepest betrayals could be forgiven, and every scar could eventually mend. Around them, the members of both factions gathered in a spontaneous circle, a symbolic gesture of inclusion that transcended former enmities. Kalen, his features softened by the humility of recent revelations, stepped forward to address the assembly. Tonight we have seen that our history, however painful, was not written to imprison us but to teach us the strength found in compassion and change, he pronounced, his voice resonant with sincere conviction. The old ways have crumbled beneath the weight of our collective truth. Now we stand at the threshold of a future reimagined, a future built on trust, reconciliation, and the boundless power of unity. In that moment, as the murmur of agreement swelled into a chorus of renewed resolve, an unexpected figure emerged from the lingering shadows, a spectral presence that no one had foreseen. It was the spirit of Draven's long-lost mentor, a revered elder whose wisdom had once guided the pack through turbulent eras. His translucent figure shimmered in the early light, and his eyes, filled with both sorrow and pride, locked with Draven's. The path to redemption is never free of sacrifice, the spirit intoned, his voice echoing like a solemn hymn across the courtyard. But through your courage and love, you have unlocked a destiny that transcends the bounds of mortal regret and supernatural duty. At that juncture, Selene stepped forward, her gaze unwavering as she addressed the assembly. I have come to understand that the secrets of our past, our betrayals, our triumphs, and even our darkest moments, are not chains meant to bind us to despair. They are the very strands that, when woven together, create the fabric of our identity. My lineage, entwined with the legacy of this ancient pact, has taught me that redemption is not a destination, but an ongoing journey. It is the courage to confront our mistakes, the resilience to mend what has been broken, and the wisdom to transform our suffering into hope. Her words, delivered with the quiet power of someone who had seen both the abyss and the light beyond it, resonated deeply within every soul present. In the silence that followed, even the hardened hearts of former adversaries softened, as if touched by a divine grace. The air grew thick with emotion. Each person there felt the weight of the past lift ever so slightly, replaced by the promise of a future redeemed by love and mutual understanding. In the center of the courtyard, Draven raised his voice, echoing over the assembly with a tone that was both authoritative and tender. For generations, we have been prisoners of old vendettas and unyielding traditions. But tonight, let us choose a different legacy. Let us forge a covenant not of control and subjugation, but of equality, forgiveness, and transformation. His declaration, imbued with the power of both conviction and vulnerability, struck a chord that reverberated across the gathered crowd. In that defining moment, the fractured history of the pack and its mortal counterparts began to knit itself into a singular, resilient tapestry, one that celebrated diversity, acknowledged the scars of the past, and embraced the hope of renewal. As the celestial alignment's lingering energies faded into a gentle embrace, a profound metamorphosis took hold. The ancient texts, once obscure and manipulated, were reinterpreted in the light of newfound understanding. What had been prophesied as an inevitable doom was now seen as an opportunity, a call to rise, to forgive, and to rebuild. The revelations spurred by Celine's discoveries, coupled with the courage of Draven's defiant stand against oppressive traditions, had altered the course of destiny. The shattered illusions of betrayal and the specters of long-hidden secrets were replaced by the shimmering promise of a future where every soul could finally find its rightful place. Yet amid this triumph, a final twist of fate revealed itself. In a secluded chamber deep within the fortress, once the sanctum of the custodian's devious machinations, a hidden relic was uncovered. Inscribed upon a weathered stone tablet was a message, penned in an archaic script, that spoke of a destiny far greater than any had imagined. It declared that the true power of the ancient covenant was not merely to unify disparate worlds, but to grant the chosen ones the ability to transcend mortal limitations altogether. The tablet foretold that through the harmonious union of a shifter's dual heart and a mortal soul of unyielding spirit, a new era would emerge, one where the boundaries between life and death, past and present, would blur, and the legacy of redemption would become eternal. The revelation sent a ripple of astonishment through the crowd. It was as if the very fabric of reality had been rewritten in that silent moment, urging everyone to consider the boundless possibilities that lay ahead. Draven and Celine exchanged a look, a mixture of disbelief, exhilaration, and an almost imperceptible hint of trepidation. The weight of destiny now pressed upon them in a way they had never anticipated. Their union, once seen as a defiant act of love and rebellion, was now imbued with the promise of transcendent power, a power that could elevate not only their kind, but also the entire world into a state of perpetual renewal. As the assembled souls absorbed this final astonishing revelation, the spirit of the old mentor faded into the rising sun, leaving behind a silent benediction that echoed in every heart. The legacy of pain, betrayal, and sorrow had been transformed into a beacon of hope, a hope that would guide future generations to embrace their true nature, confront their darkest fears, and ultimately find solace in the redemptive embrace of love. In the closing moments of this tumultuous saga, as the first clear rays of dawn broke over the horizon, Draven and Celine led their people in a solemn yet jubilant ceremony. Together, they vowed to honor the lessons of the past while forging a new destiny defined by compassion, unity, and the courage to evolve. The assembly dispersed slowly, each individual carrying the luminous spark of redemption within them, a spark destined to ignite a movement that would echo through time. In that hallowed moment, as the veil between the mortal and supernatural realms lifted entirely, the once warring factions embraced a shared future. The ancient prophecies had been reinterpreted, the chains of tradition shattered, and a new legacy had been born. With hearts united and eyes set on the horizon of infinite possibility, Draven, Celine, and their allies stepped forward into the emerging light, a light that promised healing, rebirth, and the timeless truth that even the deepest wounds could be transformed into the seeds of everlasting hope.